Welcome to Legal Eagles. William Pelarenos, your host here. I'm a retired police officer, author of the book DUI's Decoded, and host of the television program The DUI Expert on the TLN Network. Follow me on Twitter at Police Project One, as well as catch my photographs at Instagram. Same thing, at Police Project One. Now, today we got some interesting guests. I have C.J. Powers here, who's an author of a very, very interesting crime novel. Welcome to the show, C.J.
Thanks, Bill. Glad to be here.
Now, C.J. has written a nice crime novel that takes place in the Chicagoland area, and I started reading and I was fascinated, so I had to ask him, are you a policeman? He's not. But you throw so much police procedural into the book, I was amazed. How did you get all this experience and knowledge into this field, CJ?
Well, first of all, it helps to grow up with a cop as a father. So we were always surrounded by police officers. Whenever we'd go up to the Lake Cottage, he'd invite his buddies from the police station. Dad always surrounded us with police officers and firemen. So it was pretty easy for me to pick their brains and have a chat. I could even have some fun with them. In fact, back in high school, I did some magic and illusion type stuff. So I actually did a handcuff escape routine using real police handcuffs. It amazed them.
Incredible. Now, the title of the book is called Steele Boue, The Forgotten Crime. And Steele is spelled Steele, because that's the name of your character, correct?
Right. The main character is a maverick detective. She's also a mother. She's gone through PTSD, memory loss, and the goal in the book for her is to try and gain back enough of her memory so that she can bust the notorious Diaz, who's got the biggest drug syndicate in the Chicagoland area. He's trying to move a new shipment of cherry meth into the Chicago schools, and she wants to get him knocked out before her son has to face it in the grades in the high school. It's
a very fast moving thriller, easy to read. I was surprised how much, and you put in landmarks in Chicago, driving down Lakeshore Drive. I mean, I could visualize everything you were saying. So were you born and raised in Chicago here?
Yeah, Chicagoland area has been my home forever. I moved away for 4 years of college, and that's about it. Then I came back to the area. Once a Chicagoland person, you're always a Chicagoland person. Just like once you're a Cubs fan, you're always a Cubs fan.
I understand. And prior to this, you had written short stories and a couple of how-to books. How did you decide to go into the crime thriller genre there?
Well, I always liked action and adventure. I love those kind of films. I love those kind of books. There's a lot of excitement and energy that they bring to it, and it causes you to have to think a little bit. I mean, this book, there's 6 or 7 twists in the plot that you have to be paying attention to see if you can stay on top of the crime. And yet at the same time, within the story, I give hints to the audience so they think they know what's coming. They think they know how the book is going to end. I guarantee you they won't figure it out.
Now, you mentioned that your father was a police officer, correct?
Yes,
And doing your research, you talked to see several undercover police detectives from New York, right?
Yeah, I have. I can't reveal names, obviously, but I'm connected to one gentleman that was under deep cover in New York for 5 years. He's since retired, but because of his connection, doing consulting with the FBI and so on, I obviously can't give out his name.
No, that's fine. I'm just asking for the background, how you were able to get all these interesting police procedural effects into the book. I was kind of impressed.
Well, and some of it just came from my own life. I mean, when I was in high school, the cops in the town I grew up in had just made a bust, and they had brought 3 high school kids in for a drug bust. But something was going wrong during the interview process, and they were realizing that maybe they didn't get the right guys. Well, that night there was a big dance in the main gym. They sent me in undercover to listen to all the students and to kind of get in with the conversation and so on to figure out who really did, who was really at fault for what all that happened from the drug situation. And I got back to the station. I said, guys, you got the wrong guys. So they immediately let him go, and they dove back into their investigation.
That's why we call it a source of information.
Yeah, there you go.
Seriously, we used to, when I worked narcotics for 5 years with the Cook County Sheriff's Police, we were lining up sources of information. People, just like you said, would go work for us for a short period of time, get information, and come back. Some were long-term confidential informants, and some of these people were paid. Not everybody was paid, but some were paid, and some made big money over the year being a confidential informant. And that's the name of the game with the drug business.
Yeah, well, and thanks to my dad, of course, his buddies, there was a guy that was in charge of a lot of the insurance investigation. Because of my age at the time when I got into college, he pulled me into some undercover work as well. So I actually had to put mechanical photo devices on my body, wearing certain outfits so that I could go show up at the bar or the Ace hardware store or whatever it was that I was trying to track people. In fact, at one point, things got very severe with one of the cases they were working on, and I had to go undercover with my son, who was about 2 years old at the time. So we actually rigged the camera to the stroller, so whichever way I turned the stroller, I could take a picture of what the person was doing.
Very interesting, very interesting. So you kept up the assistance to law enforcement throughout the years.
Yeah, kind of just made sense. I mean, most of my dad's friends were either cops or firemen, and, would take time and get to know them over at the cottage during the summertime and things like that. Go swimming with them and do whatever. You get to know the guys and you help them out when you can.
It's the best because you know what? Whenever you're doing an investigation, you need to be a seeker of the truth in law enforcement. We have to, when we're doing an investigation, we have to get the right people. You don't want to charge the wrong man or somebody who happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time and not involved.
Right.
So it's good to have. And they got the technology. They got the video. They got the audio. They've had audio for years with the wires, But now the cameras can be, the size of a, small, the size of a button,
Well, and nowadays it would have been much easier back then had the equipment been that small. But the way we had to jerry-rig the stroller and stuff to aim the stroller to aim the camera, it was quite interesting for the time. But yeah, now you can have a small camera on you and no one would ever know it.
Years ago, I had a friend who used to do private investigations, and they also had high-tech stuff. And some of those guys had more state-of-the-art equipment than the police department because they were a privately funded organization. They could afford the big money. And this was the early 90s. And what he used to do surveillance, video surveillance. He'd take a box of Kleenex, slowly cut a little hole, put the video camera inside, because it was a little bigger
Sure,
back then.
Sure,
okay?
Yeah, that works.
And he could run for, I don't know how many hours. He put the Kleenex box on the dashboard, and then he'd go park the car in front of the residence he was doing surveillance on. He didn't have to sit there for 12 hours. He had the video camera running. So he had the tape, or he could watch from a remote location. And they made it very easy. And that, man, I said, hey, why don't we have that stuff?
Yeah. Well, like you say, the funding just isn't always there for the boys in blue.
Private companies have sometimes a big advantage, and that's why a lot of privatization has the advantage over government government entities, But who's got the best? I worked with a lot of agencies, and I did joint deployments and stuff like that, is the feds. The federal government had the best equipment. I mean, everything was top notch,
Yeah. Now, I know my dad worked with the feds every now and again, but he wasn't allowed to tell us anything. But, as far as Steele Boue goes, there's another little aspect here that I want to bring up. The main character, because she's a mother, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the book that women are going to enjoy as well. Because I've heard from so many female readers already that the mother-son relationship is a profound one that they just really enjoy getting into. Now, of course, from an action standpoint, I can leverage that for more action and intensity in the story. So hopefully the readers are going to enjoy going back and forth between the action and the adventure and the soft, heartfelt moments.
That's a good move for you, that you include all aspects of your audience. And you know what? In reality, there's a lot more female readers than there are male readers when it comes to novels. Because I know a lot of my friends, they want to watch the video, the men, where women, I'll see them reading a thick novel. My wife gets those big books. And a lot of people have turned towards books instead of the, on the, what do you call it, on the website, those Kindles.
Oh, the ebooks and stuff?
Yeah, the ebooks. A lot of people want to physically turn the page now. They want something that they can physically hold, you know.
Well, and the good thing about Steele Boue, of course, is that if you go to Amazon.com, you can get either one. You can get the paperback or you can get the ebook because it is available on Kindle as well.
I like the paperback, and it's a little bigger than the normal paperback. The size the book you gave me the other day.
Yeah, it is. It's a trade paper size.
Very good, very good. What else can you tell us about the book?
It's fun, and you need to buy it right away. Well, I don't want to give away too much of the plot line. I will tell you that, with it taking place in Chicago, I definitely described the sites. I mean, I worked downtown in the city for several years. I worked in the exact precinct that this takes place in. So the locations are very rich. Anyone that's been down there will immediately pick up on it. And I have to say that one of the things that more people are saying than not is that they absolutely, after reading the first chapter, have to read the rest of the book.
It's great. It's great. I'm reading it into the middle of the night, but then my eyes start getting tired and the words start blending.
They fade in and out.
Yeah, and then the next day, I don't remember how far I read. The book's closed. I didn't dog-ear it or put a little, so I got to backtrack. I go, where did I stop?
Yeah.
But when you're reading till 1, 2 in the morning, and it's an interesting book to read. But don't read it late at night.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to take the audience on a journey as well as on a roller coaster ride. So there's a lot of emotional ups and downs. There's a lot of surprises salted throughout the book. Yet there's a lot of richness in the character development and the relationships that are built between the people. And, that camaraderie that the boys in blue always have, right? And having Cassie, being that maverick female detective, just gives a whole unique edge to it that drives the book in such a unique way that people that have picked it up tell me that they have a hard time putting it down, unless, of course, they've fallen asleep at 2 a.m.
I'm not the only one, my friend.
No, you're not.
Anyways, it's a great book. It's called Steele Boue, The Forgotten Crime. It's written by C.J. Powers. Where can we get it?
Right now, Amazon.com is the best place to get it. The trade paper is available as well as the ebook. They can also go to my website, cjpowersonline.com, and there's some background information there and some other things. I do a lot of blogging, so there's things in there that I've done for short stories. There's things I've done for filmmaking. In fact, right now I'm trying to finish up the Steele Boue screenplay. So hopefully we'll see the movie in a year or so.
Are you doing this as a spec script, or have you gotten a contract?
No. I'm wanting to finalize it myself first before I put it out there, so that I can make sure that the story stays intact.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know what? The thing with you've got so many characters running around. When you got a nice book, it's not like watching a movie. A movie, they have to condense everything into 2 hours. You've got multiple characters here. You've got nice scenery. I like the Lakeshore Drive sequences. But it's a great book.
Yeah, that's a great chase scene. Absolutely one of the best. Hollywood's going to love that one.
I pictured Lakeshore Drive while I'm reading it. I pictured Lakeshore Drive in my head. I visualized the whole scene.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
Steele Boue, The Forgotten Crime by C.J. Powers, his first crime novel. It's fiction, but he based it on a lot of experience, interviews, and information he received from police officers. CJ, thank you for being on the show.
Bill, I appreciate it.
that.
Thank you.
Stay tuned with us. We'll be right back after a quick break. We got another guest coming up, and this is Legal Eagles on 1590 AM WCGO. We'll be right back.